Theodore Roosevelt, who would go on to become the 26th President of the United States, lived a life marked by vigorous action, robust ideals, and a keen sense of adventure. His experiences in Medora nestled in the Dakota Badlands, and later as the leader of the Rough Riders during the Spanish-American War, greatly shaped his life and political career. This is part of his story. The return of Teddy to the bully pulpit. The foreboding facade of the bully pulpit stood as a stark silhouette against the encroaching twilight. A lone raven perched upon the tavern sign, its beady eyes glinting with foreknowledge of the night's events. As the heavy wooden doors creaked open, a mysterious figure, recognized by few but known by all, stepped into the dimly lit space. It was Teddy. The amber glow from flickering candles cast deep shadows, carving out his rugged features, revealing a man marked by both time and sorrow. The once boisterous ambiance was choked by a silence so palpable it weighed upon the souls of every patron. Eyes, wide with a mix of recognition and surprise, followed him as he navigated the sea of tables, the soft thud of his boots the only sound to pierce the hush. The bartender, an old crone with a knowing look, slid a dusty bottle and a glass towards him without a word. Teddy nodded in gratitude. The air grew denser, filled with whispered conversations and muffled gasps. Then a familiar voice, weathered by time, rose above the rest. "Welcome back, Four Eyes!" Old Man Jenkins, his once fiery red hair now silver, stood up, raising his glass in salute. Suddenly, the grim atmosphere lifted. Musicians, sensing the shift, began to play a jovial tune, and the tavern was transformed. "Fuck you, Jenkins. Let's have a drink," he quipped back. The bar burst into laughter, and a celebration, wild and free, began in earnest, honoring the prodigal cowboy's return. Stories, families, dance, and song filled the gaps left by years of Teddy's absence. But as the night wore on, and spirits both liquid and ethereal flowed, Teddy felt compelled to share his newfound purpose. Leaning forward, the weight of his mission evident in his eyes, he began to speak of distant lands, of wars, and of the dire need for brave souls to venture forth. The tavern's inhabitants listened, rapt. Some faces shone with patriotic fervor, others with skepticism, but all knew that the winds of change, dark and uncertain, were blowing, and Teddy, their Teddy, was at the heart of the storm. The gathering storm in the heart of the West, in the sprawling vastness of the Wild West, from the Dakota Plains to the Texas Plains, fighters came from Arizona, Oklahoma, and New Mexico to fight in the war. The town squares across the West were now bearing witness to a sight hitherto unseen. Teddy, with his band of followers, traversed these squares, casting a net of urgency and passion across every town they graced. Like a phantom, the winds carried whispered tales of his purpose, ensuring a throng of curious onlookers awaited them at every stop. From the shadowed corners of the rodeos, cowboys emerged, their sun-scarred faces betraying a mix of skepticism and curiosity. With lassos they danced, their ropes twisting and turning like ethereal spirits in the gloaming, casting spectral loops that captured the gasps of the audience. Beside them, the stoic Texas Rangers showcased their unmatched mastery over firearms. Each shot echoed the promise of duty and skill, leaving trails of smoke that hung in the air, like wraiths bearing silent witness to the unfolding drama. From the distant plains, Native Americans, keepers of ancient lore and wisdom, showcased their unparalleled tracking abilities, evoking awe and reverence. Their steps were soft, almost ghost-like, their eyes sharp, mirroring the falcon's gaze, seeing what remained hidden to most. But it was Teddy, the heart of this dark tempest, who shone brightest amidst this sea of talents. As dust settled, with the backdrop of a crimson horizon, he would ascend makeshift podiums or stand atop wooden crates. His voice, deep and resonant, carried tales of impending battles, of honor, and of a nation's destiny. Each word, dripping with fervor, ignited souls and awakened dormant fires of patriotism. The air grew thick with emotion, with promises, with the weight of choices yet to be made. It was clear. Cuba, with its haunting beauty and relentless challenges, was ready for liberation. And Teddy was bringing the Wild West to lead the charge. The Crucible of Brotherhood. On a windswept plain in Texas, where the relentless sun cast long, somber shadows and the horizon seemed a distant dream, a transformation was underway. The land, hallowed by the stories of battles long past, was now set to host another epical event. Teddy's Harvard compatriots arrived in a trail of dust, their sophisticated finery clashing starkly with the rugged vastness that surrounded them. They stepped down from their carriages, their eyes scanning the expanse, their demeanor exuding a blend of apprehension and condescension. The local volunteers, hardened by life and marked by the scars of the frontier, regarded these newcomers with evident disdain. Their calloused hands and sunburned faces were testimonies to the challenges they had conquered. The dichotomy was as stark as night and day, and the tension palpable. The training grounds echoed with the sounds of grit and determination. Men, once divided by class and education, were now united in purpose. Horses were mounted with trepidation by the uninitiated, shots were fired with varying degrees of accuracy, and strategies were debated, often vociferously. Yet, as the days melded into nights, a transformation began. Beneath the canopy of stars, around flickering campfires, barriers began to crumble. Stories, rich and varied, flowed like vintage wine. The laughter of a Harvard graduate melded seamlessly with the guffaws of a Texan cowboy. The tales of academic halls intertwined with the sagas of wild adventures. It was during one such night that Teddy, his silhouette illuminated by the dancing flames, stood to address the gathering. His voice, laden with emotion, spoke of the vastness of the American spirit, of the unity that diversity brought, and of the indomitable will that defined them all. His words, powerful and heartfelt, flowed over the men like a healing balm, sealing rifts and forging bonds. The Texas plains, once just a silent witness, had now become a crucible, molding disparate souls into a cohesive force, ready to shape history. Shadows and dawn on Cuban shores. The pallid moonlight bathed the shores of Cuba, casting eerie illuminations on the chaotic tableau below. Boats, battered by unseen forces of nature, made their turbulent landings, each one spewing forth men and mangled supplies. The silvered sands, once pristine, were now littered with remnants of what should have been a well-planned invasion. Boxes lay crushed, fabric tore under heavy boots, and weapons were rendered impotent by salt and sea. The men, once fiery and full of fervor, now bore expressions of dismay. Their eyes, which had gleamed with determination on the Texan plains, now mirrored the disarray around them. The weight of uncertainty hung heavy, like the oppressive humidity of the Cuban night. But from this desolation rose a figure, undeterred by the unfolding chaos. Teddy, his voice the lone beacon in this shadowed despair, rallied his men. His words, fervent and infused with undying spirit, emphasized the need for adaptability, for rising above circumstances, for molding chaos into order. He invoked the spirit of the frontier, of facing challenges head-on, and of improvising against all odds. As dawn began to paint the horizon with hues of hope, a new regiment emerged from the foliage. The Buffalo Soldiers, epitomes of discipline and strength, marched forth, their synchronized steps a stark contrast to the disorder of the night before. These men, shaped by their unique challenges, bore themselves with a silent pride that demanded respect. The Rough Riders, observing these stalwarts, felt a stir of admiration. Here were warriors, not so different from themselves. Handshakes were exchanged, nods were given, and an unspoken bond began to form. From the chaos of the Cuban shores, two forces, different yet alike, united in purpose and respect, ready to face the battles that lay ahead. Whispers and thunder in the Cuban thicket. A dense primeval jungle loomed before the men. Trees, ancient and gnarled, stretched skywards, their limbs interlocking, casting a verdant canopy that blocked the sun. Vines, like serpentine entities, dangled and slithered, and the air was thick with the chorus of unseen creatures, their songs an ode to the eternal dance of the jungle. The men, once masters of open plains, now found themselves in an alien world. Every step was a battle. Treacherous undergrowth threatened to ensnare them, and the omnipresent buzz of insects served as a constant reminder of the perils of the tropics. Amidst this labyrinthine green, scouts, with eyes sharpened by adversity, brought tidings of opportunity. A Spanish camp lay nearby, and with it, the promise of horseless creatures that could lend wings to their beleaguered feet. As twilight embraced the jungle, Teddy, with a select band of Rough Riders and Buffalo Soldiers, embarked on a mission under the shroud of darkness. The moon, playing hide-and-seek behind swift-moving clouds, lent them just enough light, turning them into ghostly apparitions as they approached the enemy camp. The Spanish, oblivious and ensnared in the arms of Morpheus, were unaware of the storm about to befall them. Like wraiths, Teddy and his men infiltrated the camp. Every move was deliberate, every sound muffled. But the jungle, ever watchful, heightened the tension, with nocturnal creatures providing an eerie soundtrack to the covert operation. Then, with a signal, chaos was unleashed. The men moved, swift and silent, cutting free the horses, their hooves pounding the earth like the distant drums of war. Spanish soldiers, startled from sleep, were met with shadows that struck and vanished, leaving confusion in their wake. The night, once silent, roared with the fervor of battle and the thrill of escape. And as dawn broke, Teddy and his men, riding their stolen steeds, emerged from the depths of the jungle, victorious and invigorated, their spirits soaring higher than the towering trees they left behind. Vigil in the Valley of Shadows. On the cusp of destiny, in a makeshift base camp nestled within a quiet glade, men prepared for the morrow. The glow of countless campfires painted the darkness with patches of warm orange, revealing scenes reminiscent of olden chivalric tales, warriors in silent contemplation before the impending storm. Boots, worn by miles and muddied by battles, were polished to a sheen, reflecting the fires and the faces of those who tended to them. Guns, partners in every skirmish, were cleaned with an almost reverential touch. Amidst this, some men penned their thoughts, hopes, and farewells on fragile paper, sending whispers of love and promises of return to distant homes. Teddy, ever the beacon, wandered among these vignettes of vulnerability and valor. His presence, a comforting shadow, moved from one man to another, his words a balm to frayed nerves and restless hearts. Each touch, each nod, bolstered spirits, reminding the men of their purpose and the strength within them. From the corner where the buffalo soldiers gathered, a soft, soulful hymn began to rise. Voices, deep and resonant, sang of faith, of hope, and of the courage to face the unknown. The melody, haunting and pure, floated through the camp, weaving a tapestry of emotion that bound every soul present. One by one, the Rough Riders, captivated by the song's magic, joined in. Different voices, different stories, yet in that moment, they were one. One in heart, one in purpose, one in the face of looming fate. As the final notes of the hymn faded into the still night, Teddy rose, the campfire casting an ethereal glow on his face. Every eye turned to him, anticipation hanging thick in the air. "My brothers," he began, his voice deep and resonant, echoing the sentiments of the song just sung. "Tonight, as we stand on the precipice of destiny, I look around and see not just a band of warriors, but a true representation of America." He gestured towards the gathered men, from cowboys to scholars, from buffalo soldiers to Native Americans. Each one of you, with your unique stories, your individual dreams, embodies the heart and soul of our great nation. We hail from different backgrounds, we carry different tales, but here, under this starlit sky, we are one. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. "Our unity," Teddy continued, "is a testament to the strength of America. Despite our differences, despite the paths we've walked, we stand shoulder to shoulder, ready to fight not just for our homeland, but for the future of our world." He paused, letting the gravity of their mission sink in. The Spaniards and the shadow of European colonialism seek to stake their claim on this side of the globe, but we say, no more. We stand as the bulwark against tyranny, against the suppression of freedom. He leaned in, passion burning in his eyes. "Tomorrow, as dawn breaks, remember this unity, this emblem of America's indomitable spirit. We will push back the tide of oppression, ensuring that our land, our hemisphere remains free and untethered from the shackles of colonial ambition." Drawing himself up to his full height, Teddy's voice grew louder, imbued with fervor. "We fight for the past, honoring those who forged our great nation. We fight for the present, for the families and homes that trust in our valor. But most of all, we fight for the future, for an America and a world that remains a beacon of hope, of freedom." The men were spellbound, hanging onto his every word. Sensing the crescendo, Teddy concluded, Let the world hear our resolve. Let the annals of history remember this moment when America, in all her glory, stood united. And as if driven by an unseen force, he thrust his fist into the air, leading the rallying cry, "USA! USA!" The men joined in, their voices melding into a powerful chorus, echoing across the land, a testament to their shared purpose and undying patriotism. Ascension at San Juan. The first blush of dawn painted the horizon with a delicate palette of rose and gold, casting San Juan Hill in a momentary glow of tranquility. But beneath this serene facade, the ground vibrated with tension, like the string of a bow pulled taut, awaiting release. At the vanguard, Teddy, astride a magnificent steed, looked every bit the leader of legends. His gaze, steely and unwavering, met those of the men around him. With a voice that echoed across the vast expanse, he rallied them, invoking the spirits of freedom, honor, and the dreams they carried in their hearts. And then, with a thunderous roar, the charge began. The ground shook as horses and men surged forward, an unstoppable tide of determination. The world seemed to dissolve into a maelstrom of sound, the shrill whistling of bullets cutting through the air, the battle cries of men, the frenzied neighing of horses. The dawn at San Juan Hill was a mournful gray, clouds heavy with the weight of impending conflict. A fog had settled, making each step, each move, a haunting dance of silhouettes. At the forefront was Teddy, mounted atop a horse that mirrored his own unwavering spirit. The way he maneuvered, the sheer confidence he exuded, was reminiscent of his cowboy days in the vast expanses of Dakota. With every order, every gesture, he showcased his innate understanding of the terrain and tactics. From the flanks, a lone cowboy showcased a unique blend of Wild West dexterity and battlefield strategy. Spotting a Spanish scout who threatened to compromise the unit's position, he swiftly hurled his lasso. The rope unfurled in an arc of elegance, ensnaring the scout and pulling him out of the equation. This quick action enabled the American forces to advance, their positions still masked, their strategy intact. To the right, the Texas Rangers showcased their iconic precision and calm. With rifles primed, they laid down a barrage of covering fire. Each bullet sent forth added to the crescendo, causing hesitation and doubt to creep into the minds of the Spaniards. This incessant rain of lead bought invaluable minutes for the troops, allowing them to operate without the constant threat of enemy fire. Then came the masterstroke, courtesy of the Native Americans. Earlier that morning, they had melded with the surroundings, moving like specters. Their patience was unparalleled, as they remained undetected, biding their time. And then, as the sun began its ascent, they sprang into action. Scaling the sandbags, they descended upon the unsuspecting Spaniards, knives glinting. Each swift move, each silent takedown, was a testament to their unparalleled skills in guerrilla warfare. Parallel to them marched the Buffalo Soldiers, embodying discipline and determination. Every step was synchronized, every move calculated. They were an unwavering line of defense, their presence instilling confidence in the ranks. Alongside them, the Harvard graduates found their rhythm. Initially hesitant, the students drew strength from the soldiers, their combined march echoing the unity of backgrounds and purposes. This cohesion was a living testament to what diverse groups could achieve when unified under a singular mission. And then, as the battle raged around, Teddy took center stage. Urging his steed forward, he led a galvanizing charge, directing troops and pivoting strategies on the fly. His exceptional skills, honed during his cowboy days, allowed him to read the ebb and flow of the conflict, positioning his men for the ultimate push. As the crescendo of battle reached its zenith, the top of the hill was finally breached. Amidst the smoke and fury, the stars and stripes soared, planted firmly on this newly conquered ground. Its fabric, dancing in the wind, symbolized the sacrifices made and the unity of purpose that had led them to this moment. Elegy in the embers. In the soft glow of twilight, San Juan Hill bore the scars of the day's fervor. The earth, once unyielding, was now pockmarked and trampled, its integrity compromised by the dance of war. The air, though no longer thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder, hummed with a subdued intensity. Tents sprouted across the landscape, each one a sanctuary for the wounded and weary. Inside, medics, their hands stained with the evidence of their endeavors, moved with quiet determination, stitching, binding, and consoling. Each moan of pain, each sigh of relief told stories more profound than words could convey. Outside, by flickering campfires, men gathered, their silhouettes dancing against the flames. Voices, hoarse from battle cries, now spoke in hushed tones, exchanging tales of valor, near misses, and the brothers they had lost. Each narrative, woven with emotion, became a thread in the tapestry of their shared experience. At the camp's edge, a solitary figure stood, his posture speaking of both triumph and contemplation. Teddy, his face illuminated by the dying light, gazed at the horizon, where the sun had bid its final adieu. His thoughts, deep and swirling, pondered the cost of the victory they had achieved and the immense responsibility the future held. Around him, the world seemed to pause, paying silent homage to the fallen and the battles yet to come. And as the first stars began their vigil in the night sky, San Juan Hill, with its tales of heroism and heartbreak, settled into a somber lullaby, a reminder of the fragile balance between glory and sacrifice.